Hello everyone, my name is Miss Ashley from Fibo Kids Art Academy and welcome to another amazing art class. Today we are going to be learning about the artist Charley Harper. He was an American artist known for his stylized wildlife images. Because he was from Ohio, he drew a lot of cardinals. So after we read a book with images he created, we'll be creating a picture with a cardinal as well. For a list of supplies, be sure to check the description of this video. Let's go ahead and get started with our book. Charley Harper's Book of Colors by Zoe Burke. A red bug with black spots. A sleepy cat with orange spots. A bumblebee with stripes of yellow. He's a very busy fellow. A green bird whose head is blue. An orange fox is watching you. A cardinal with his belly red sure looks like he's just been fed. A pink flamingo stands so high. A fat white seal is floating by. A chipmunk who is mostly brown is finding dinner on the ground. A raccoon's face is black and gray. Two yellow warblers flying away. What a neat book that was. So did you guys notice the cardinal in the book? So we're going to be drawing an image inspired by that cardinal in the story. So I'm going to go ahead and put my sample aside and we'll get started with first taking out a red piece of paper. It can be any shade of red that you would like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that red piece of paper and I am going to fold it in half. Now this will help to make sure that our cardinal is even on both sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using a Sharpie so you can see my lines, but I want you to make sure that you're using a pencil. Now I like to start from the very bottom just to make sure that I have enough room on the top in case I need to save that paper for anything else. And I'm going to draw about half of a teardrop shape. So it kind of looks similar to Fibo's head right there. So now that I have half of that teardrop shape, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut on that shape. It looks like my glue wants to roll away. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut along that line. Okay, I'm just making sure, cutting along that line. And see how I have all of those extra scraps right here? I can always use that for something else. So I'm going to go ahead and put that aside and open up my cardinal. So right now it just looks like a red teardrop or maybe a red leaf. What we need to do is we need to create our cardinal. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to be taking out a light colored piece of paper. You can use light blue, you can use yellow, that is up to you. Just make sure it's not too dark because remember we do want to see our cardinal on that paper. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find a good place to glue down my cardinal. I think about right here is pretty good. So I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to glue along where my Sharpie line was. That way I don't see it on the finished picture. So I'm just going to make sure I get as close as I can to those edges. I'll put that cap back on and we'll glue that red raindrop on our paper. Now I'm pressing down with my fingers or the side of my hand. Make sure you don't pound your fist on the table. All right, and there I have my red raindrop on my paper. Now the next thing that I do need to do is I need to take a black piece of paper. Now I find it's easiest to line it up along the edge right there and take my pencil. Now I'll be using a pencil this time because it's kind of hard to see black Sharpie on black paper. So I'm just going to line up the edge of my black paper on my teardrop, and I'm going to draw a U-shaped curve to the other side of my raindrop. So I drew this nice U-shaped curve. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut out that U-shaped curve for my black paper. Now again, I like to make sure that I use the edge of the paper. That way I'm not wasting any paper whatsoever, because I can still use this black paper for something else. So there I have the part of the cardinal's head. Now again, I like to make sure that I don't see any of my pencil lines, so I'm actually going to glue on that close to those pencil lines. I'm going to take my glue and glue it like so. So let's glue it right there. Now you can always have that U-shaped curve a little bit longer or shorter. That's up to you. But we are going to be using the beak now. And so let me just go ahead and grab my supplies here. We need to draw a diamond shape. However, we're going to do something very similar to what we did with our cardinal's body. So I'm just going to fold a little bit of my paper in half. Because again, it's such a small beak, we don't need to use this entire paper to cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my orange paper, and I am going to draw a wide triangle. And so I can show you in Sharpie. So I'm going to take that and draw a triangle. Now make sure you have it on the fold, because I'm going to be cutting along right there to create that diamond. So just go ahead, take my scissors, and I'm going to cut along that line. Now again, I have all this extra paper. I'm just going to go ahead and put it away with my black paper, my red paper, because I still have so much space. And here I have my bird's beak. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a straight line along that fold. Now it might be a little bit tricky to see my fold, but I'm going to take my Sharpie, and I want you to use your Sharpie as well. And you are going to draw a straight line on that fold. Take your time with this step. You want to make sure that you're getting it right on that line. And then you'll take your glue, and remember, you're going to add glue on the side you didn't use your Sharpie on. And I like to make sure that I get that glue wherever I can. And I'm going to very carefully glue that beak right on top of the black U. So now it's already starting to look like that cardinal. Don't forget to put your cap back on your glue stick. Now we are going to still be cutting more paper and gluing, but let's go ahead and just add a few of those details to our cardinal. So first thing we need to do is we're going to add those eyes. And on the edge of where the black part of the bird meets the edge, we're going to draw a circle with our Sharpie and fill it in. Circle and fill it in. So now we have the eyes. All right, and we're going to draw 2 straight lines for the wings. Then you're going to take your Sharpie and you're going to draw 2 more straight lines for those legs. And for the legs, we're going to add those little kneecaps by drawing a circle and filling it in. Now, this is the next optional step. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I'm going to be adding a tail. We need to draw a long triangle, but however, the tricky thing is that we do need to trim off some of that triangle so we can fit it behind the bird. So I'm going to take my extra red paper that I have right here, and I am going to take my pencil. I'll be using a Sharpie, but I want you to take a pencil. I'm going to start from the bottom here, and I'm going to draw a triangle. Now I may need to trim this triangle depending on how long or short I want it to be, but I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors and cut out that long triangle. All right, I can go ahead and put this aside because I have all this extra red paper. Now I'm going to flip this over. Now it can get a little bit tricky because, again, depending on where you put your bird, maybe you don't have enough room on your paper for that full tail, or maybe you need to make it go a little bit higher. In that case, if you need to make it a little bit skinnier, always take your scissors and do so. Because this is your cardinal, you can make it the tail as tall and skinny as you would like. So still a little bit tall for my liking, so I'm going to just trim it even more. So I'll trim those sides. Again, you can have that tail as long as you would like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that tail, and you can have it either on the left side or the right side, and glue it on. So I'm going to take that triangle with my glue. Make sure to get those edges. Just make sure it doesn't stick on your table. And I'm going to take that triangle and I'm just going to glue it right behind my cardinal on the left side. Again, you can have it coming out from the right side if you would like. All right, we need to take out green or gray or both pieces of paper, because I'm going to be using the gray paper for sunflower seeds. I'm going to use the green paper for leaves. So what we're going to do first, let's go ahead and make the sunflower seeds first. What we need to do is we're going to be taking our gray paper. I'm going to put my cardinal over next to Fibo right here. We need to draw some smaller teardrop shapes, just like we did with the cardinal, with our pencil. I'll be using a Sharpie so you can see my lines. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get as close as I can to my paper. Because remember, we're not filling up this entire paper with sunflower seeds. We want to make sure that we still leave enough so we can always use this gray paper for something else. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to draw some teardrop shapes. You can have them big, you can have them small, you can have them all the same size. Some maybe a little bit skinnier or taller. That's up to you. But go ahead and draw as many as you would like. Because if you only want sunflower seeds on your paper, that's okay. Or maybe you only want leaves. This is up to you because this is your picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors. I'm just going to go ahead and trim off this bit because I can easily use this for something else. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim along that line. Now remember, you used pencil, so try your best to cut along those lines. But I used Sharpie, so I can let you guys see it. But for all these little scraps of paper that you may have, you can always throw those away. So I'm just going to go ahead, cut out those sunflower shapes. All right, so almost done. Cutting those out. Again, you can have as many as you want or as few as you'd like, because the next step is going to require you to use your Sharpie again. Or you can also use a black Mr. Sketch marker. Now I'm going to make sure that I'm going to flip over all of these sunflower seeds so I don't see my lines. So I'm going to take those. And this time I'm going to be taking out my black Mr. Sketch marker. And I am going to add some up and down lines to my sunflower seeds. So that way it gives it that nice pattern that you see on sunflower seeds. Now it might be a little bit tricky to draw those on. Just try your best. So there's one. Remember, just doing nice up and down lines. You can add about 3, or you can do one big one and a small one. That's up to you. In fact, maybe I'll just go back over and make that one a little bit thicker. Because I myself, I like the thick lines. But you can draw those lines how thick or thin that you would like. I can add one more thin one. It's a little bit tricky, so take your time with this step if you're maybe still cutting out those sunflower seeds or trying to draw those lines. You can always press pause on the video. And maybe if you really like these, you can cut out even more. All right, so there are my sunflower seeds. I'm gonna go ahead and put aside my marker because I'm gonna go ahead and take this moment to add in those sunflower seeds. Now make sure you're not gluing the side with the lines that you drew. So I'm just gonna go ahead and glue on my sunflower seeds. Make sure you're not banging your hand on top of your picture. You're just lightly pressing it down with the back of your hand or your thumb. Let's go ahead and add those seeds. Now, after you've added those seeds, if you would like to add some leaves, you can do the same thing, only this time instead of drawing teardrop shapes, you would take a green piece of paper and you would draw kind of what looks like skinny football shapes. Let me go ahead and put my bird aside again. I'm going to take out my green piece of paper, get as close as I can to the top, and I'm going to draw a curve on the left, curve on the right, curve on the left, curve on the right. You can have them longer or even longer. That's up to you. And you can add as many as you want or as few. Heck, you don't even have to have leaves if you don't want to. But I want a little bit more color variety in my picture, so I'm going to be adding those green leaves because red and green are complementary colors. So it really helps make my picture stand out. So let's take this moment to add those leaves. All right. So I'm cutting those out. I'm going to make my leaves a little bit bigger, just so they don't look like rotting sunflower seeds. ahead and take that moment to cut out those leaves. Now, if you're wanting to add some leaves onto your picture, again, make sure you turn those over so you don't see any of your pencil lines. I'm going to take a Sharpie this time, and I'm going to draw just one line in the middle for those leaves. So with the sunflower seeds, we added about 2 to 3 lines each. For the leaves, we only need to add 1 line. And then you can glue those on. Again, the leaves are optional, the sunflower seeds are optional, both are optional. We're just going to go ahead and add those leaves next. And remember, you're gluing the side that's got the pencil lines on it. You want to make sure that you see that straight line. All right, so here I'm just going to glue this down. You can put as close as you want to those sunflower seeds. That is up to you. All right, and then I'm going to just glue this on. Sometimes it's nice to just put the glue stick right there and just put your finger there. And go ahead and take this one as well. And you can add even more than I'm adding, or as few. That's up to you. All right, so there is my picture glued on. However, we're not quite done yet. I'm just going to go ahead and put my paper aside, and I'm actually done with my glue stick, so I'll put that aside as well. I do need to add some more lines into my cardinal. I'm going to go to the top here, and I'm going to draw slanted lines. And you can add as many slanted lines. I'm just going to add 2 for those wings. And then I'm going to add even more lines in that tail. I'm going to add about 3, but you can add as many as you want. All right. Now for those last touches, we're just going to be adding a little bit of more decoration to our picture. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking out my brown marker. Whether you're using a brown Sharpie, brown Crayola, or Mr. Sketch marker, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be drawing these twigs that kind of look like bird feet. So probably watch me first before you start drawing. How you do this is you're going to draw a straight line, and then you draw a letter V. So it kind of looks like a letter Y with a line in the middle. And you can actually draw these upside down if you'd like. So again, straight line or slanted line, upside down V, or letter V. So go ahead, they do look kind of like bird feet. Go ahead and add those onto your picture. You can add as many as you want. I'll just add one more right here. And maybe one more right here. All right. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take out a red marker. Could be any kind of red marker you want. And we're just going to add kind of what looks like little berries to our picture. Now I myself, with the paper that I'm using, Mr. Sketch marker works a little bit better, but again, depends on the paper that you're using. Mine's a little bit textured. So I'm going to take my red Mr. Sketch marker, and I'm just going to add some dots to my picture. Now I'm making sure that they're not all scattered randoms. These dots, I've got a big one with about 1 or 2 small ones close by. So big circle with 2 or 3 dots around it. So this way it looks like maybe some berries that the bird's eating. So circle, fill it in, and smaller dots. You can add a little small dot here and there. All right, and this is actually our last step for our picture, unless there's anything else that you would like to add to make it more unique and original. but I'm just gonna go ahead, add a few little berries here and there. And that is our final step for our picture inspired by Charley Harper. Make sure to clean up your area. If you have a lot of those scrap papers that you can still use, gather them up, clean your table in case you do have any glue on it, put all your art supplies away, and just take that moment to let your picture dry because it looks fantastic. You did such a great job. Thank you for joining me today at Fibo Kids Art Academy. I hope you guys had a lot of fun learning about Charley Harper and his unique style on wildlife animals. Please post your pictures online. We would love to see them, and we will see you next time. Bye.